behind the scenes, the Royal Report.
Good evening, welcome to the Royal Report. I'm Caroline De Russo, and this week is eventful as always, but it's not just the Windsors. Here's what's coming up on the program. Meghan Markle hints at a comeback during a rare red carpet interview. Danish royalty are making headlines for all the wrong reasons. We will tell you why. And how much are Prince William and Princess Kate actually worth? Russell Myers joins us from London to give us all the details. But before we get to that, we want to wish King Charles a very happy 75th birthday for Tuesday. The public festivities included a reception at Buckingham Palace with NHS staff and midwives, a choir singing a surprise rendition of Happy Birthday, and a visit to the King's newly launched food waste project, the Coronation Food Project. On the 13th, the King hosted a party at Highgrove House with local community advocates, and the milestone event was also marked by members of the Royal Horse Artillery who fired a 41-gun salute in London's Green Park. After all that, the King chose to celebrate his actual birthday at home with just his closest family members. And with that, the King turned 75, celebrating his first birthday as the King of England. Now that's quite the apprenticeship. From birth, we always knew Charles would become king. He was quite literally born for the job. But with the long and indefatigable reign of Queen Elizabeth II, it seemed like an eternity waiting for Charles to take the top job. Here's a clip of the young Charles.
How precisely did you hear that you were going to be Prince of Wales?
Well, I think it was, I remember sitting in the headmaster's study at Cheam, and we were all watching the television, and there were several other boys there, even little ones. I remember being acutely embarrassed when it was announced, and I heard this marvellous great cheer coming from the stadium in Cardiff. And I think for a little boy of 9, it was rather bewildering.
And despite a life dedicated to service, his path and popularity through life has not always been linear or without challenge. In fact, it's been a mixture of terrific, tumultuous and quite tragic. Here is the Charles of today.
I have been brought up to cherish a sense of duty to others and to hold in the greatest respect the precious traditions, freedoms and responsibilities of our unique history, as the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion. I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation.
Regardless of the past, Charles comes to this destined role as a very well-practiced and safe set of hands. Although he won't be in the role as long as his mother, he does have the opportunity to help the monarchy get ready for the new era, to help make it relatable, to keep it effectual in the modern world. He's essentially the transition between the old world and the new. Joining us now is News Corp columnist Angela Mollard and Associate Editor for The Australian, Jenna Clark. Ladies, welcome to the program. Angela, despite the Sussexes not making their way to the UK to celebrate Charles's birthday, apparently a birthday call was made.
That's right. Harry, of course, called his father. He also sent a video clip of Archie and Lilibet sending a birthday message to their grandfather, a grandfather, of course, that they've hardly ever met. The interesting thing about this is that we found out everything about it. So clearly there was a leak from Harry's side of things. But what a position to put Charles in. What happened with this call is that it completely removed the food project that he had been launching that day, in which you mentioned, Caroline, from the news cycle. And all we heard about was Harry's call. Now, this also makes another problem for Charles in so much as he has 3 things to think about before he thinks about Harry. And they are primarily the crown, his wife and his heir. So there are 3 things before Harry. So Harry coming into the dialogue on his birthday isn't necessarily a good outcome for the king.
Now, Jenna, you'd think that that would be the end of it. Kid calls dad on birthday, but apparently there was still some additional controversy.
Yeah, I think Angela's hit the nail on the head, because I think the Queen, the King Charles's wife Camilla, and also the heir Prince William, are the two people that are really trying to block Prince Harry and Charles from speaking. But apparently, this call, according to the tabloids all around the world, this call was placed pretty strategically on Harry's behalf, because old mate wants to return home for Christmas at Sandringham, and who wouldn't want to? I mean, the spread looks amazing, but it will be very, very interesting to see if an invite is extended in the next couple of weeks.
Now, Jenna, staying with you, and while we usually fill this show talking about the British royal family, it's not all rosy in the Danish royal family. Can you run us through the scandal?
Oh, I absolutely can, because this, Caro, is my Roman Empire. The Danish royal family, of course, because the next queen will be Aussie-born, the artist formerly known as Mary Donaldson. Well, there are now cheating allegations and lawyers at about 15 paces, because Crown Prince Frederick is apparently having an affair, or had an affair, with a Mexican-born, Spanish-residing socialite called Genevieve Casanova. It's a very unfortunate name. Everyone has come out and denied the allegations, and Genevieve has said, look, if you keep going with these splashy tabloid headlines in Europe, you're going to be hearing from my lawyers and costing you a lot of money. But interestingly, I think a lot of people, especially body language experts, have really been watching closely with what's going on with Mary and Fred at this point in time. They're both looking quite tired out in public, and of course that's got the rumour mill in overdrive.
Now, Angela, as Jenna said, the family has come out and poured cold water over the allegations. But do you think it's enough to make it go away?
Not at all. Not at all. And in fact, the only thing the palace has said is that they won't comment on rumour and insinuation. Note that they didn't say we don't comment on falsehoods. So all they're saying is that this is rumour and insinuation. They're not actually saying that that it's not a flat-out denial. As Jenna mentioned, Casanova has denied it. But what's really interesting here, from my decade working in the UK, I'm surprised that the editor of the Spanish magazine didn't sit on these photographs and wait for the money shot. If they had kept a pap on Casanova, as would have happened probably when I worked in the UK, and then you potentially, if there is an affair happening, and of course it's only allegation at this stage, then of course you would have that shot where there was some level of affection. I think what made them decide to go ahead with it, obviously, was the fact that he stayed the night at her apartment.
God, the British royals are breathing a sigh of relief this week. Go, Jenna.
Yeah, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy. I think I think we probably here in Australia, and Angela would probably know more than I would, but I think we probably we're probably going to focus more on the Danish royal family, considering that Prince Christian, who is the eldest child of Mary and Frederick, he's now turned 18, so he's begun his apprenticeship to become, the monarch in a few years' time. And we had his 18th birthday with this amazing white tie banquet, and he gave his first ever words and speeches, and Mary was in tears. It was beautiful. And then, of course, this week we saw him popping in to a meeting with the Danish Parliament with his grandmother and his father. So the boy's all grown up. I don't even know where that time has gone, because, in my mind, he's still only a tiny little baby.
We've actually got a grab of Prince Christian.
Jeg vil aldrig glemme i dag, men måske vil jeg allerede huske den som allerede mindre udfordrende i morgen. Jeg skal finde min vej, selvom den fører et kendt sted hen. Jeg har rødder mange steder i verden, og jeg nyder at rejse ud. Men hjemme vil altid være her, for jeg elsker mit land.
Angela, do you see much in the way of parallels with Prince William?
Oh, very much so. And the way that these children in royal families, particularly around Europe, are raised into this role. I mean, from the moment of their birth, and that earlier clip that you showed of Charles and him learning that he was going to be king around the age of 9. Of course, we're now seeing with George. George was told around the age of 8 that he was going to be king. He started royal duties. But yes, of course, Prince William had all those conversations with the Queen for many years, afternoon tea and cups of tea, where she sort of gave a lot of her insider knowledge to her grandson. So yeah, it's lovely coming to them. And when I look at that, I think we all have to be really proud of the role that Mary has played in raising this young man.
Yeah, absolutely. But Jenna, back to the British royals, and Meghan has been out mingling with celebrities this week. Omid Scobie, who we know is close to Meghan and Harry, has just released his book Endgame. Is there anything new in this?
No, this is the hilarious part. The only thing new, Caro, is he came out a couple of days ago saying, look, this isn't about my relationship with Harry and Meghan. This is about the current state of the royal family as it is right now. Yet, interestingly, people have released an excerpt, and it's essentially just picking up pieces from what we saw in Spare by Prince Harry about a year ago. Who would have thought Prince Harry and Prince William are not speaking? And it's probably going to fracture the royal family forever, but both of them are too stubborn to deal with it. So I think, you know, this guy calls himself to be an insider, but he should just call it for what it is and just say that, you know, old mate Meg was my source, and that's why you should buy my book, because it is definitely juicy.
But Angela, look, the Sussexes have had plenty to say. Is this corroborating, I suppose, without them saying it directly?
I don't think they've got anything to do with this book. Look, they know they can make money by themselves. You know, Harry's book sold its socks off with this talk of Meghan having a book. I think Omid Scobie had a couple of sources close to the Sussexes and has peddled that, but there's nothing new there.
Angela, staying with you, your former colleague Angela Levin, who's quite the queen of royal commentary, has had a bit to say about Meghan and how she essentially inserted herself between Harry and his family. What are your thoughts on her comments this week? Because they were quite brutal.
They were very brutal. She basically said that Meghan is a vixen, a sort of Yoko Ono type character who's steered Harry away from the royal family. Look, I don't fully agree with that. You know, Harry is a grown man. That said, I think right from the outside, and also when you read Spare cover to cover, it's very evident that Meghan is a power player. She's also a divisive character, and I think a lot of that division that she had in her own family and in her own relationships and personal life before meeting Harry has now knocked onto him. I think it'll be really interesting as he hits his 40s, as he will next year, and when he decides that he wants his children to have some connection with the family that he left behind. And I think that's when there'll be tensions come to play. And, you know, these two, they don't work things out by turning inwards and being conciliatory and compromise. That's not how they do it with other people. So there's no suggestion that they can do it with each other. I don't think it's a marriage that's going to last.
No, you're probably not the first person to say that either. Jenna, I've only got about 30 seconds, but Prince William, he's the patron of the British Football Association. He attended Bob Charlton's funeral this week. The Royals cover a variety of patronages and events. This really hits to the core of British culture, though, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Cara. And I think especially now, you know, when I think that everyone's hitting on such hard times when it comes to, you know, the economy, I think the state of politics in the UK at this point in time. And I think William showing up and really showing his true colours, because he does love football, is what matters. And of course, so is little Prince George. I think it was a really lovely moment that he did arrive at that lovely tribute.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you so much. Angela Mollard, Jenna Clark, thank you again. Now, up after the break, how much are Prince William and Princess Kate actually worth? We'll be joined by Russell Myers in London to discuss. Welcome back to the show. Joining us now is Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Russell, we know the royal family isn't short of a quid, but some enlightening reporting this week about the wealth of the family Wales. How much are they worth and how is it quantified?
Well, great to see you again. I mean, this comes up every so often about how much money the royal family are worth. Are they worth, you know, the £1.50, the $3 that the British public pay for them? However, this is quite interesting because, you know, how much are Kate and William worth? And it seems as though people are quantifying it from sort of money brought in from William's ventures now with the Duchy of Cornwall, the land that they own, all the plush houses. And you know what? It's over £1 billion. My math is about $1.5 billion. I mean, that is absolutely staggering when you think about it, that neither of them have had, you know, huge careers where they've worked for any long period of time. I know, of course, William was a former air pilot and worked in the sort of air rescue. However, you know, in today's society, cost of living crisis ongoing, you know, are we getting what we deserve from William and Kate? And I think that's it's pretty much up for debate for a lot of people at the moment.
And here in Australia, that's 2 billion Aussie dollars. Now, more conjecture this week around the invites to royal family events. The Times is reporting that the Sussexes haven't been invited to Balmoral for Christmas. Is that the case? Can you fill us in?
Well, it's interesting. There's been a lot of briefing and counter-briefing going on over the last few weeks. And this started with the fact that King Charles's birthday just a few days ago, big party at Clarence House. Was Harry invited? Wasn't he invited? And another report said that he wasn't. Then his team hit back, said, listen, he wasn't invited. He would have potentially gone had he been. And then we heard about a call from Harry to his father on his birthday. So, what is the state of a relationship? My understanding is that the invitations haven't even been sent out necessarily to everybody for Christmas. So, listen, I think that Harry and Charles's relationship has the possibility of green shoots, cementing a newfound relationship for the pair of them. However, it's been a long time since they've spoken, many, many months properly. And this could be the start of something new. But I think for the King, certainly, he would be potentially worried that any conversations he's had with Harry will end up in the public domain. And you can't blame him, can you? Because we've had the Oprah Winfrey interview. We've had the book Spare that was coming out of Harry's memoir. So I think that there'll be a lot of nervousness at the camp if Harry was around. And I don't think this Christmas will be the moment.
And in a similar vein to that, the New York Post is reporting that Harry's fed up with missing royal milestones. So how much is it that the Sussexes aren't invited? How much is it that they're choosing not to attend?
Well, that's a good question, because I'm sure he is fed up of missing things. I mean, he's got 2 young children who don't know his father, their grandfather. They don't see Meghan's father as well, so their only grandparent that they spend time with is Doria, which is Meghan's mother. And Harry is cut adrift out in the US. He's trying to make a success out of it. They've had a few business ventures that haven't gone to play. And so he's in a bit of a difficult situation. I'm sure he does miss his family. He said it himself before in those interviews that he gave for his book, that he wants to bring his family to the table. He's seeking an apology from them, which I don't think will be forthcoming, certainly not from his brother, Prince William. So I'm sure that he would want to be engaged in those family events once more. There's definitely a period that he feels that this could be the time for repairing of a relationship with his father. But I suppose there's a bit of time that needs to elapse before that can happen.
Now, Omid Scobie, who's a royal commentator, he's also the author of a book named Endgame. He has said that Harry and Meghan need to establish a purpose going forward. Look, to be honest, I think there are a few people who would disagree with that. It would also lead to a lot less questioning about their future. What are your thoughts?
Well, very much so. I think, a lot of people have been saying that, and they would probably say that themselves, that since moving to America, their whole purpose was to establish themselves, become financially independent, was the phrase that they used when they left the royal family. And that in turn meant earning millions of dollars in order to pay for their security, pay for their lifestyle that they'd become accustomed to, whilst working with, the big boys like Netflix, Spotify, Harry getting a job as some wellness director for some tech companies. And this is the problem for them, that I don't think they have necessarily found their purpose. It hasn't really worked out in the sort of streaming sphere for them. Meghan's Disney show was canned before it even got off the ground. So what is the next stage for them? Certainly we've seen some discussions, we think, between some different tech companies in the US, perhaps Meghan getting back into presenting. I mean, we saw her earlier this week saying that they had exciting projects in the pipeline. So, listen, I think 2024 is going to be a big year for the Royals. I think we're going to see some more international travel, a lot more collaboration between them. And it could be a big year for Harry and Meghan as well.
Now, in a recent interview, Meghan has admitted that she enjoys a mum's night out. That's not punishable by death as yet, Russell. It's good to see her being a little bit lighthearted. Look, I don't know if we necessarily read anything into that, but it's good to see her being relatable.
Yeah, you know what? I think Meghan and Harry have taken themselves too seriously for a long time. And Meghan, we saw her out on the red carpet. She was at the Variety Awards during the week. And she seems to be enjoying herself a bit more. I mean, she was pretty relaxed. They were asking her questions about her Thanksgiving coming up. They were asking her questions about the projects in the pipeline. And she said, there's a lot in the pipeline. We're excited. We're working on things. Me and my husband have got big announcements to make. And you hope, I think, most people think, that there will be a period where they sort of find their groove, because the mudslinging that has been constant over the last few years, as I said, the Oprah Winfrey interviews, the constant PR junkets that they were doing to publicise their books and the Netflix series, and mentioning the royal family, that is certainly not what Harry and Meghan want. It's certainly not what the royal family want. And if Harry and Meghan do want a relationship with the royal family, then it's definitely not going to be down that path. And so let's wait and see what happens for them. I do think that next year is going to be a big year for both sides of the family.
Now, Meghan has also said she's got a slate of new plans. Let's have a look.
What is the thing that is, driving the work that you're going to put out into the business?
Things that make people feel, I was going to say good, but it's more than that. Things that make people feel something, right? And feel a sense of community. But we have so many exciting things on this slate. I can't wait until we can announce them. But I'm just really proud of what we're creating. My husband is loving it too.
Russell, what's being pitched?
Well, I'd like to know, because there's a lot of discussion in Hollywood and even this side of the pond as well about what has been pitched. I mean, the reputation isn't great at the moment. They lost their £30 million Spotify deal. The Netflix deal is looking pretty shaky. Some reports this week to say that Netflix are ready to cut and run from that deal. That was £100 million. I mean, as you said, it works out about $200 million for that deal with Netflix. Now, if those were to falter, then their reputation isn't great in Hollywood or the streaming space, the tech space. So what do they have in the pipeline? I mean, I thought Meghan was thinking on her feet with that question, to be honest, and whether there are big projects in the pipeline. I think more next year is going to be a period of looking towards where they want to go long term, the charity work, the possibly wellness space for Meghan, not necessarily working with the big tech giants. We've seen that didn't necessarily work. It got off to a faltering start. Even Harry's Invictus show with Netflix, very, very worthy, but didn't really get the plaudits and the ratings it deserves. So perhaps looking outside the box for Harry and Meghan will be a better plan for them.
Russell Myers, as always, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much. My pleasure.
Now, just before we go, we touched on Queen Camilla and the state diadem last week. Then this week, Tatler reported on Crown Princess Mary of Denmark's favourite diadem called the Ruby Wreath Tiara. It was originally commissioned for Napoleon's coronation, and with the reign of Napoleon hitting the screens in an upcoming biopic, we couldn't miss the opportunity to show you this tiara. Following Napoleon's coronation, this piece made its way to Sweden and then finally to the Danish crown jewels. And that's the show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Up next is Newsnight. Good night, and we'll see you next week.